Hey guys, wanted to come on and do a video about a book that I just finished reading. It's called The One World Schoolhouse, Education Reimagined. It's by Salman Khan, and that name might be familiar to you because of Khan Academy. He is the founder of Khan Academy. It's khanacademy.com or .org. I think it's .org. But he wrote a book not too long ago about, he gave some history as far as how he got started and what he used to do prior to the Khan Academy, and then basically what his assessment of schools, traditional schooling is now, and what he hopes to provide students with either separately from the current school system or working within it to integrate what he believes education should be in the future. So my overall assessment was that I really loved the book. I loved his ideas. It really gave me a sense of, encouragement to keep going in the way that I'm going. A lot of the ideas that he had are things that I've thought of that I want to do with my sons as they get older. So it's a lot of child-led learning information that he discussed and other things like that that kind of are really, and I guess for me, it was kind of funny that a lot of the ideas he had were kind of commonplace in the homeschool, unschooling, world schooling realm. It really sounded like he's trying to bring that essence of one-on-one learning, child-led learning, or student-led learning, passion behind the education, all those things that homeschoolers do or hope to do with their kids. He's trying to bring that into the classroom. So I don't know if that was something that he realized, but it definitely set off alarms for me. I was like, wow, this sounds exactly like the information that I'm trying to convey to my kids. So a couple of things that I wanted to point out that stood out for me was that, and I have little notes here, so I'm going to be looking at them so I can make sure I get it right. One of the first things that stood out was that he said when he was, I think it was his cousins that he started off doing the YouTube videos for Khan Academy. He said that he had to look at the students with respect, obviously, but as if they were his equal. Like if he was talking to somebody at work that just didn't quite understand the material or whatever he was talking about, he wouldn't get frustrated. He wouldn't, treat them as if they were, you hate to say it, but children, how people do. He looked at his students, who happened to be his family members, as equals. So he took the time to really be calm with them and explain to them, like, okay, I understand that you don't, this is not clear. How can I make it more clear, or let me clarify, or, whatever he had to say, to treat them with respect so they know that it's about learning. It's not anything that they can't do. That kind of stood out to me because I don't think that's really a thought when you start, teaching your kids, whether it's homeschooling or if you're a teacher in school, that you teach the kids from a standpoint of them being your equal and that they just need a little bit more guidance to understand something. So that was one of the things that stood out. Something else was that he talked about mastery learning, and I had never really heard of that, but as soon as he explained it, it was like, duh, kind of thing. So mastery learning is basically you will master a topic or a subject before you move on to the next thing. So if you're doing addition, you will be fluent in addition. And he gave some metrics to assess the readiness to move on. But I really like that. I like that idea that you really should know whatever topic that you're learning in and out before you move on. And what he said is, and it just makes sense, is that it prevents the Swiss cheese effect. So if you don't know your addition, it'll be kind of difficult to maybe do multiplication. If you don't know your subtraction, it might make it difficult to do division. Things, obviously things build on each other in school. So with education, period, whatever kind of school you're in. So in order to go to the next thing, you should master what you're on. And isn't that what we should do in life? Before we're all over the place, we should really hunker down and get something completely together before we move on. So I thought that was a really good point that he brought up. Another thing was, and this is something that I knew, but it's always good to have somebody, especially at his level at this point, point it out as well. How traditional schools create passive learners. Oh, yes, we know that to be true. They want you to sit there and memorize and regurgitate and not really think and digest what you're learning. But then the flip side of that is that when you get to college, or especially in real life situations, you're asked to think and be innovative and creative. So K through 12, or maybe, I'll say K through 12 because it can go through college too. But K through 12, you're essentially forced to not think and just do. And that's not everybody, but a lot of the time that's the case. And then all of a sudden you're supposed to be this person that can just think outside the box and make these decisions based on, this and that, when all along you've been told what to do. It's kind of contradictory. So I liked how he pointed that out. Another thing was he talked about how he wants students to look at subjects as gateways instead of end-all be-alls, like I have to learn this for the test. He wants them to look at a topic and say, okay, this is what I have to learn, but what else is there? He suggests scratching the surface. And that's exactly what I do in my real life. And I encourage people around me, and I will raise my children to definitely dig deeper and really digest and process things so you can understand them. That's the only way you can truly learn something. And speaking of tests, he says, which is true, he said they're just a snapshot of what's going on at the time, and they should be used to identify gaps. And that's kind of where that mastery learning comes back in, where I think he gave an example of if you get 98% or 95% on a test, that means there's 5%, or that means there's 2% that you need to go back and work on. Because if you don't, that gap will get wider and wider, and then you'll have future problems as you keep going in your education. So the test should not be, okay, you got a 92%. It may be an A, and depending on where you are, that might be an A or not, I don't know. But, you got an A, but what happened to the other 8%? It doesn't matter. And that's one of the problems with the kids have. It doesn't matter. You just got to pass the test and you can keep going. He brought up the use of the term coaches versus teachers. I think, when you think of any kind of professional sports, you need a coach to make you better. Where you think of teachers, it has a negative connotation. So I really like the idea of coaching children instead of teaching them. Coaches want you to do well, and teachers kind of have the connotation they just want to teach you. So I can understand that. I can dig that. I kind of like that. He talks about peer-to-peer collaborations and mixed age classrooms. Love that idea. I have a co-op that I'm a part of. I'm starting in my neighborhood, and I'm going to introduce the idea of mixed. I've already introduced the idea of peer-to-peer, because I think it's very important for older children to learn to interact and explain, and then younger children to follow directions from different people. So I think peer-to-peer collaborations are great. In mixed age groups, they talk about, I think he brought up the fact that socialization doesn't really happen in the classroom, and we know that, and it's because everybody's the same age. I mean, that's just not realistic. So I really like that idea. And I'll end this because I'm trying to wrap it up before 10 minutes. So the biggest thing that I took from this was him saying, and I quote this from him, "What we teach our kids is less important than how they learn to teach themselves." That's just so deep. I just love that. That is ultimately what I want to do. I want my children to know how to teach themselves, because that is the true essence of learning. That's education for you there, right there, folks. So all in all, if I'm going to give it any kind of stars, I'm going to give it a 5 out of 5. It was awesome. It's called The One World Schoolhouse, Education Reimagined by Salman from the Khan Academy. All right, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. If you get a chance to read the book and you want to come back and tell me about it, please do. I highly, highly, highly recommend it. All right. Peace and blessings, guys.